When anybody just tomorrow invest money and start a business and take away market share, while one could be a King Kong in one particular market, one should get beyond that comfort zone and take that pain and the journey of going through delivery of innovation. Hi everyone, this is Mayur Abhaya, founder of LifeCell International. Mayur, welcome to the Founder Thesis podcast. So you kind of came into LifeCell, which your father had started. I'd love to get a little bit of a historical context on what was it that your father started? What was your background when you came in? What was this company like when you started working initially? Just a little bit of the pre-journey, if you can talk about. Sure, Akshay. Thank you for having me on the show. LifeCell as a company started in 2004. It was India's first private stem cell bank. Company which preserves the stem cells from a newborn right after birth and preserves it at minus 200 centigrade so that it can remain viable until the time there is a medical need. My father was a serial entrepreneur, had started his journey, about 40 years back as a pharma enterprise entrepreneur. Then has done many other industries, including visual animation, nanotechnology, and many more. I had joined the company in 2008, almost about 4+ years after I founded. And I had a background in biotechnology. And so there was meant that this was something that I could help expand the company. We were funded, at that time. So there was already startup capital. What we needed was the growth capital and the offerings, So from a single category company in 2008, we have now established LifeCell, as the country's largest cell and tissue bank. We do genomic testing also for newborns and pregnancies in the country. We offer additional services such as corporate wellness. We offer fertility tech. And we also are the largest exporter of human cells and tissues for treatments globally. Okay, fascinating. Your father was running all those businesses in parallel, or would he start next, or tell me a little bit about him. Right now, from the early part, he was, committed to a single company. But then, you're right. You use the right. It's a parallel entrepreneur, not a serial entrepreneur. So he would run some of these ventures in parallel. That's right. Okay. And how did he get the capital? Because I'm sure when he started, there was no such thing as venture funding. How did he build his venture? So he had angel funding. So my grandfather had someone whom he recommended, whom he considers as a mentor. He was already involved in helping new industries establish. So he provided the seed capital right after college. Then my father, when he ventured into starting this, and he has been, funding our other ventures also as a group. Even LifeCell, when we started, he was the first provider of initial capital. And what are the other ventures in the group? Are they still active? So the business, of course, the businesses continue. We have gone through mergers and acquisitions. So today it is amongst the top 10 pharmaceutical manufacturing companies in the country. It's called Strides Pharma. First while was the Shasun Pharma. Okay. And what is the focus area? What manufactures Strides? The active ingredients, the powders that go into the tablets and capsules. So we don't see branded products from us. Example, ibuprofen, which is one of the largest painkillers globally. So that is, we're the world's largest manufacturer of that active ingredient. Okay. So like 1 million plus headaches every day. Oh, wow. Okay. What is the a pharma supply chain look like? So you're saying that somewhere in the supply chain there is an active ingredient manufacturer.
And
Can
then
you
it
just
goes to finished dosage manufacturing company, takes the active ingredient and formulates it, converts it into tablet, capsule, whatever is the form that the ingredient is used as. And then, of course, goes for branding, packaging, and distribution.
okay, okay, and
The active ingredient manufacturer starts with raw chemicals and then processes it to manufacture the active.
okay. Is this a business of IP or is it a business of scale and operational excellence? And by
It
IP, I
is
mean like intellectual property and research and stuff like that. So
sure. I mean, India is the world's largest manufacturer of active ingredients. So it
okay,
is clearly something that requires expertise in chemistry. There is a lot of innovation because there are hidden barriers, IP barriers that need to be overcome. Novel processes, more cost efficiency, reduced pollution, all of that has to be addressed to make a successful enterprise.
okay, okay, okay. Like the active ingredient for ibuprofen, the ingredient per se is not patent protected, but how you make it, some of those methods you're saying would be the
Correct.
process. Some of the processes would be patent protected, and you would
Correct.
have
And then
to.
you need to add chemical engineering skills on top of it because if you're making some of these chemicals at high volumes, like in the case of ibuprofen, it's about 600 tons being made every day. Right? So
Okay.
that's the level of throughput. So you really need efficiency also.
Okay. And what kind of acquisitions did you do in this? Like other active ingredient manufacturers?
So one of the largest expansion that I was also directly involved with was acquiring a UK asset, which was set up as a uh, provider of ingredients, to companies in the pre-launch phase. So in the drug discovery phase, they would want companies who have chemistry skills to manufacture them, that will support regulatory clearance and also the launch quantities. So that was something that we felt would complete the life cycle, where we start not just post-launch, which most Indian companies do, we start right at the pre-launch phase also.
So this pre-launch business, i- what is different there? Like, i- is it that
If
you have to do
you
smaller
require
batches,
quick
more
turnaround, smaller
customer?
batch sizes, right? It
Mm.
starts from a few grams,
Okay.
where they check whether the product is okay
Mm.
to being manufactured, for initial, hundreds of patients and then thousands of patients
Mm.
before it gets commercial.
Okay. Okay.
And
Okay.
you
So,
need
so
to
that
have
is more of a
the,
iterative manufacturing process, whereas
that's
this is the core business is more of a scaled manufacturing process.
correct.
Okay. 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 And uh, your revenue is largely from India, or what is the split like for the pharma business strides?
Most pharma companies, which, active ingredients, do have a significant share of revenue coming from imports. At Shasun, it used to be more than 70% of revenue would be.
Hmm. Hmm. And what is typically the competitive advantage of companies in this space of active ingredients? Like, I mean, can anybody just tomorrow invest money and start a business and take away market share, or are there like some like key competitive advantages or moats that you can defend your business through?
Right. Number one is, of course, your process skills, how well you design a process to make it efficient so that it is long lasting, not just that you have an initial, honeymoon phase where it is limited competition to succeed, but built to last. And what is also important is to have a good, strong customer base. Uh, it uh, it's not just dependent on a few key customers, across 60, 70 countries that one has the ability to distribute. one requires that distribution network, process skills, and ideally IP barriers also to restrict competition.
And the IP barrier is on the ingredient itself or on only the
Just
process?
on the process itself.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So, are these active ingredients typically all patent free, or is there a licensing
No,
process
no.
for some
See,
ingredients?
patents the last maximum 20 years. There is been innovation all through. Uh, Majority of the ingredients are patent free. Today probably only about 100 new ingredients get approved globally every year. So yes, I mean most of it is, and that's why medicines in India are very costly.
Okay. Okay. You said that you have an initial honeymoon phase. What contributes to that honeymoon phase? Why do you have a honeymoon phase if it
So in
is?
the US, they have a interesting rule, where it's something called as a paragraph 4, where if you're the first to file um, as a uh, generic manufacturer of a branded product,
Okay.
then you get a 180 days time window where you're the only exclusive alternative.
Okay.
So that gives you a significant price and volume advantage to break through the market. And this they've created so that there is you know more people incentivized to come and make an alternative to a branded.
Oh, okay. Okay. But this 180 days exclusivity is for the finished product manufacturer, right? Not for the
Correct. That's
APE.
correct.
Okay.
That's correct. But once, and usually there is a tie in. The rush is so much to file as quickly as possible. We see almost every time for a finished product, there is always only one manufacturer of the ingredient.
And if you're working with that manufacturer,
Correct.
you have
Tie-in is there, correct? So you benefit
uh,
from that.
got it. Does this industry have a lot of churn, or once you have a customer, that customer stays with you forever, or or do customers frequently reevaluate contracts and give it to other vendors also? And like, what is
There
the
is, I
stickiness?
mean, there is obviously motivation not to switch vendors. I mean, it is free enterprises or commercial necessity. It is not easy to switch vendors. First you need to have a vendor with established capacity. Next is also you need to go through a regulatory hurdle where once you switch manufacturers, you need to show that the vendor who is supplying through the alternate vendor is substantially equivalent, to the current vendor. So there's a lot of chemistry, manufacturing controls, which will get reviewed before. And again, it needs to go through an FDA inspection of the alternate. So it could take about a couple of years, for somebody, even if there is a change intended before it actually gets implemented.
Okay, fascinating. So the very high cost of switching. Okay,
And multiplied with number of customers globally, right? I mean, if there
Mm.
is uh, 50, 60 different customers for an active ingredient, all of them have to go through so many of these. Right? So it's a lot of inspection work, also regulatory work, just to support a change.
Mm. In your P&L, and this will be my last question on this.
Sure.
What is the in that P&L? There will be some cost of your raw material, some cost of people, some cost of
Yeah,
sales marketing, and some cost of compliance. I'm assuming.
that's
What does that split look like, and what is the margin
usually
like?
right. Um, so the cost of active ingredients in India, or the chemical raw materials that go into making these ingredients is the highest, usually proportionate about 40% of the finished
Okay,
processing is
okay,
materials.
okay.
There is the energy cost also that go into, roughly energy and the equipment cost, roughly about another 10%.
Hmm.
There is people cost, which is about 20%. And the rest of it is the margin available for the company.
What would be like a rough compliance cost? Like you said, there is an FDA
Compliance costs, of
fixed.
course, there. When I say people cost, that is largely the people cost, and that would be, I mean, supporting the compliance, quality testing, and quality assurance. These are the two large components. Roughly, you could say about, including R&D, about 5% of the revenue is invested.
Okay. Okay, understood. Okay, so let's move on to LifeCell now. So you had on your LinkedIn, I can see your first stint was the pharma business before you joined LifeCell. When you joined LifeCell, how many branches did it have? What kind of revenue was it doing? What was it like? Uh,
Roughly about 10 plus cities that we were in, largely the metro cities. It was about 20 odd crore in revenue
Mm.
after 5 years of operations and positive cash flow with a little bit of debt on the books.
And what was the idea behind starting LifeCell? What was the gap in the market that your father saw that this is an opportunity to build something here?
So the whole premise of stem cells is that it is the single starting cell from which all the other uh, different cells and tissues and organs of the body are made. So it is got that inherent potential to regenerate and recreate. And this was already proven that it works in the case of blood-related transplants. If uh, somebody who's suffering, for example, a blood cancer like a leukemia, lymphoma, myeloma, uh, and with regular initial like approaches, which is medicines or with chemotherapy, they don't beat the cancer. Then the only option available for them is a stem cell transplant. It is more like a computer system reboot. Once you have a virus, so can't use an antivirus to kill it off. So do is just format the whole computer, delete the original operating software, reload the original the drive, and then reload it. That's what we do with stem cells. We give high dose radiotherapy, wipe out the entire immune cells, which also kills the cancer cells. And you take healthy donor stem cells, infuse it into the patient, and then starts growing and repopulating, which could take about 28 to 45 days for a complete recovery for an individual. And which
Okay.
is why what is important is to have a matching stem cell available. That's the only way that the rejection can be avoided. Because you're thinking about going from zeros, from your zero cells back to a healthy body. Any rejection of that would really be fatal.
Uh, okay.
And
I want to ask this.
there was no, situation of donors being available in the country.
Hmm.
You know, organ donation, tissue donation in the country is extremely behind, despite our huge population. And, that was the thing to solve was an opportunity that India is the world's largest birthing country. And if you could have these stem cells frozen, which is otherwise being discarded, and make them readily available for a immediate release to a transplant, that is how we thought the company's need could be solved very effective.
Okay.
And there was no
Okay.
bank when we started out. So we started the country's first stem cell.
Okay. I want to ask a more basic question of what is stem cell? Do adults also have stem cells which can be harvested, or and where do stem cells reside in the body and all? Like, give me a more basic understanding of stem cells.
Yeah, right. All of us as individuals carry a reservoir of stem cells, which is there largely, across the body, but the largest single source is in the bone marrow, which is in the region behind. And, that's where these cells then get uh, produced enough large quantities, which then is carried through the bloodstream across. And every day, millions of cells get regenerated in our body. So, and depending on the need, it could turn into the required tissue, lung, liver tissue, heart, whatever is required. The patients who have not stored their own stem cells, at birth, the obvious alternate, and there are a few indications, though very few. About 80 plus conditions that today get treated with stem cells, only about 7, 8 can get treated using your own stem cells. So like multiple myeloma, Lisa Day, was a celebrity actress. She had this condition. She didn't need, thankfully, a donor. She could take out her stem cells, preserve it, get the chemo radiotherapy, wipe out the cancer, and then re-infuse her own cells.
So stem cells can be harvested from adults also. It's not
Correct.
like
With age, the quality and quantity of cells decrease, which is why
okay,
today, even for a patient, most donors are only sourced in the age group of 25.
okay, okay. Uh, my understanding of stem cells as an outsider was uh, when your child is born is when you harvest the stem cells and preserve them.
The most pristine cells right at birth, the fastest growing cells, easy to match. You don't need a complete match compared to an adult. You know,
Okay.
you like blood group matching. You have something called as immune group matching, but or HLA typing technically. Uh, those are about 10 parameters, and unlike a blood group which has only positive or negative, we have thousands of variations in each of those
Hmm.
parameters. So it is therefore, a much higher order degree of challenge. Uh, Thankfully, with cord blood, even 6 out of 10 parameters match, one could progress with the transplant. A partial match is suitable, unlike an adult donor where you need a complete full match.
And what is cord blood?
Cord blood is where the newborn baby's umbilical cord blood, in
Hmm.
short, we call it as cord blood.
And that is a source, a rich source of stem
And its
cells.
source, which is otherwise being discarded. About
Okay.
80 ml of blood can be collected, without any pain to the mother or the child. This is after the umbilical cord is cut on both sides. It is clamped, and that's when the collection of stem cells happens. It
Okay.
is from the hospital room, taken to our lab through air logistics. Less than 48 hours across the country, we are able to bring in samples to our central lab in Chennai. That's where the stem cells are harvested and then frozen down. We also have a backup storage facility in Gurgaon. So therefore, we have disaster recovery situation where should any one unit be destroyed for whatever reasons, beyond our control, we still have a.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Today, I'm happy to share that we have a huge repository of stem cells, more than 90,000 plus units, which are readily available for use for a patient with a 96% chance of finding a match for an Indian origin donor. I think we have largely solved the problem of finding a matching donor for Indian patients.
Okay. Is it monetized by finding people who need stem cells that they are charged, or is it monetized by charging parents for preserving stem cells of their babies? Probably it's a mix of both, but just want to understand how that happens.
Right. There are two operating models. One is like a prepaid, like where the parents pay for it right at the time of birth, so that when they have a medical need, they don't need to pay anything more. Including there is a 20 lakh stem cell insurance also to transplants. So a low initial fee with a low recurring fee. This helps not just the child whose stem cells are preserved, but also the parents and the grandparents of, and also of course the siblings. So it provides a comprehensive cover for whole family unit plus medical insurance also is there. For those who have not had the opportunity of preserving their family stem cells, they can go to a public bank, like a regular blood bank. There are public stem cell banks. With one, then if finding a matching donor, we'll have to pay about 20 lakh of rupees. We'll just withdraw a matching. The fourth one can pay and buy a unit. Today public stem cell banks, put together do not have more than 10,000 units. So the probability of finding a match is extremely low in banks.
How many units do you have?
We have about 500,000 units preserved with us, with about 90,000 plus ready for use, which are matching and meeting the qualification criteria for a transplant.
What is the drop off between 500,000 and 90,000?
Right. So there is the a consent required from parents, to make it available for a third party use. Right? They are
Okay.
making their child's stem cells, contributing to a community, so that if they are sharing, they also likewise get a opportunity to withdraw stem cells.
Okay.
There is,
Okay.
of course, a small proportion of units because of, early preterm birth, the quantity of stem cells are not sufficient, to meet the transplant requirements.
Hmm.
Some of the units may also get rejected because of contamination, like microbial contamination, largely in the case of normal vaginal births.
Okay. Okay.
And there
So
is
do
also
you?
infectious diseases testing that is done between the mother and, so that any HIV, HCV, all those conditions also, we want to ensure that is not transmitted because of the what is harbored in the mother.
Okay. Got it. So from what I understand, bulk of the revenue is the uh, at the time of birth, what a parent would be
That's
charged for
correct.
storage,
Correct.
and being able to use it later in life. But when somebody is coming in to get stem cells, that is also monetized when
No, we,
the
we don't
parent agrees.
we don't operate as a public bank. So it
Hmm.
is only for members who have preserved their stem cells with us. It's only
Uh-huh.
accessible by them for a transplant.
Got it.
Kind of a closed community.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So
Got it.
therefore, there is the incentive to contribute a baby stem cells at birth.
Ah, right. 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 Okay. And this would be members plus their relatives or something like that.
That's
Or
correct.
only.
First degree, second degree, blood relatives. Correct.
Okay. 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 Understood. Okay. Got it. Okay. So you have multiple lines of businesses, which you mentioned in the beginning. Uh, of those, how much does this contribute? The at time of birth, charging the parent for storing the stem cells. What percentage
Today,
of that?
it is about 20% of the overall revenue.
Okay.
Thankfully, the newer businesses have grown and substantially contributed to the overall revenue base.
And when you joined, what was it?
So from about 22 crore revenue,
Hmm.
2008, today
Hmm.
we should be about 800 crores in revenue, which is
Okay.
about 15 years later.
Okay. Okay. 800 crores is the overall revenue for
That
LifeCell.
for the company, that's correct, yes.
Okay. And when you joined in 2008, it was largely just this part of the revenue was the, I guess it would have been only that single source of revenue of charging parents at that stage.
Absolutely. It was the only service line that we had, which
Hmm.
initially in the first few years, we helped scale it up to a
Hmm.
pan-India base,
Hmm.
covering more than 140 cities and covering more than 5,000 hospitals and about 20,000 gynecologists all over the country.
What was the playbook for that scale up? What was it that you had to get right in every city that you went to, and what were the drivers of this scale up?
Three large levers. One
Hmm.
starting with the awareness itself. Where first the gynecologists themselves need to be made aware of the service. So a lot of medical education. Next is putting teams, customer service teams who would meet the parents also in the areas. And inform them about this option. Beyond awareness, thankfully the media also did a good supportive role of creating that awareness. Transplant success stories, that was another thing, which is the applications.
Hmm.
First awareness, second was the applications. The number of applications also continued to increase. More success stories. Today we have about 90 plus transplants that have happened through the units that have been stored with us, across various categories, including thalassemia, cerebral palsy, leukemias. We've had units being taken for transplants, not just in India, but also all over the world, including Singapore, US. More number of transplant centers also set up in the country. So all of that helped in the application side.
Okay.
Next was also the affordability. We help continuously lower the prices, making it more and more affordable, including do these annuity schemes. That was one large measure and could scale up. So today, parents pay about 20,000 rupee as the first year storage cost, and then about a 4,000 rupee annuity fee to maintain the store.
For how many years?
They could store as long as they, up to about 70 years that we provide. Every year, annual fee is 40,000. If someone chooses to prepay for a lifetime 70-year package, then it's about 40,000.
Okay. So for a parent, either they can pay a lump sum 40,000 or they can pay 20,000 plus 4,000 each year.
That's correct.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we've also done some collaboration with celebrities, also including Hrithik Roshan, Aishwarya Rai, Lisa Ray, so who's also been a transplant beneficiary. So all of them
Mm.
help awareness and credibility to the cat.
Okay. You
Raised
said that.
capital also multiple times. So we've
Mm.
raised capital in 2012, to help venture from single category to multi categories. And apart from that, increasing the scale of the current category.
Mm.
And in last investment was in 2021,
Okay.
which is
Okay.
to more help support the new expansions.
Okay. Okay. I guess you have raised something around $60 million total.
That's correct.
Okay. 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 So what was the VC lens for this business? Typically VCs have a way of analyzing a business. Like they will look at what is the addressable market, what has been successful in other countries, and where is India going towards, and stuff like that. And so what was the VC lens for? Because I mean, you raised a fairly large amount of capital till there. So I'm just curious to understand what is it that VCs find so attractive about this business?
Right. So the initial thesis, in 2012 was that India is the world's largest birthing country.
Hmm.
It was highly under-penetrated. And less than 0.1% of babies born in India and their stem cells preserved at birth compared to, even neighborhood geographies like Singapore, where 1 in 4 babies at birth have their stem cells preserved, to even as high as even in the US, which is doing, many X, 100X larger than where India was. Therefore, there was the opportunity that significant scaling can happen and get driven by our leadership position, with plans to improve the affordability and awareness. This is where we felt LifeCell would be the most prime player to achieve that scale.
Okay. 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 And you said you've had 90 transplants so far from your uh, preserved stem cell units, uh, which sounds like a very small number. Uh, I mean,
If you'll have to put that in context, it is
hmm.
the first many years of life. The child has probably only 1 in 5,000 need of 1 in 5,000 need of being diagnosed of a condition that is treatable by stem cells.
Okay.
It's not just diagnosis that's enough. Usually they will also, exhaust the current options of chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and all of that,
Hmm.
and then get scheduled for a transplant.
Okay.
So if you put about it, that, about 500,000 units, reserved, and most of the average age, would be less than 5 years. That
Hmm.
part of the stories happened more recently.
Hmm.
There is still a long to go before the uh, transplant numbers increase.
Understood. This is like an insurance policy, and
Mm.
typically this policy is redeemed only beyond a certain age. The
That's
cohort has
correct.
not yet reached that age.
Right. That's it.
Therefore, this number is it's early days basically.
Globally,
Okay.
1 in 200 have a need of a stem cell transplant and a life. So it is
Okay.
not that, there is no need for stem cells. Every year, about 50,000 plus transplants happen
Hmm.
globally.
Hmm. Hmm.
Even in India, about 5,000 plus transplants happen.
Hmm.
So it's not the diagnosis, it's really the cohort that we are.
Even this number sounds small to me. 50,000 global for 6 7 billion world population. What is
I
the
mean, so
reason
it
for?
is more restricted again, as I told you, about finding a matching donor, right? Not everyone is
Okay.
able to finding a match. So that also is a restriction.
Okay.
And most
Okay.
of think about large places like Africa and others,
Hmm.
difficult to find that. Even in the US, not everybody, Caucasian ethnicity may find a matching higher probability, but not of other origins.
Hmm.
And for
Okay.
India, we had to solve the problem.
Hmm. Okay. 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 Understood. Understood.
Even today, there is no large government funded public stem cell bank in India. Like
Hmm.
in the US, government sponsored, several banks which meet the population of meet the needs of local population.
Okay. 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 You said that you worked on lowering the price for parents. One part of lowering price was, of course, in terms of financing option. Uh, what else? What are the other ways in which you lowered the price? Could you fundamentally lower the cost of uh, storage for a parent? Like,
So with scale, it does become more efficient, and therefore we have been able to pass the benefits of parents, which becomes a feeder cycle, for further growth.
okay. Okay. So this is like in a way like a winner take all kind of a market. If you reach scale, then your prices will be substantially lower than a new player who will take time to reach scale.
Right. Thankfully, we have more than % plus market share.
Okay. Amazing. Amazing. And you said that you store in Chennai and you were back up in Gurgaon. So what happens? Like the stem cells are split between two? Like if a parent is getting it stored, then some part of the child's stem cell will be in Chennai, some will be in Gurgaon. So is that how it happened?
Right. When it was on private storage, we would split that one unit itself into two different locations, proportions, so that
Okay.
there is availability in case of a disaster also.
Hmm.
What we have now flipped to, because now you no longer depend on the child's own unit, you're dependent on a matching unit from a community. And
Hmm.
the more cells that you need, transplant quicker that you recover from. So
Hmm.
what we do is our entire inventory, we now split it into two different locations.
Okay. 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 Got
We
it.
don't split an individual unit. We just maintain the units from a volume perspective at two different.
Okay. Could you also tell me how the economics of this works? Like how much of your sales is going towards cost of storage? How much is the sales cost? Is this is the big part of this business about customer acquisition or is it about the storage? What is the bigger cost here?
I mean, the largest cost is actually just the reaching out to parents, right, which
Okay.
includes the journey start. Today 50% of the parental journey start online.
Mm.
Hence, with
Mm.
that, of course, they meet a lot of our representatives during the visits to the maternity clinics. So it is research online. Usually, people need that confidence of a doctor, of a hospital, meeting with a person. Because it's not just for the baby, this is for the health of the baby for a long term, right? So they take that additional assurance there. So apart from the largest pair cost of people and online, which is the awareness cost, the second biggest cost, of course, is the entire infrastructure to do the testing, processing, storage, and the distribution for the cells. Third largest cost, of course, would be the entire corporate cost for us to have
Okay.
the renewals
Overheads.
managed for the storage.
Mm. Okay. Okay. What is like a blended cost of acquisition of a customer, like an average? How much does it cost you to acquire each customer?
Roughly about 5,000 rupees is the average CAC.
Mm.
And in
And
stem
what
cell
is
banking, surprisingly one of the highest cost keywords on Google. So a lot of money goes off,
yeah.
as well to the online platforms.
Mm, mm, mm. And why is that? Why is this such a competitive space?
I think because also the cost of the transaction value is also quite high, right?
Okay.
Where it is
High
an
ticket,
average ticket,
high
right?
margin. And is it a
Exactly.
high margin business?
It is a profit, high margin business, yes.
Okay. At
Which
scale.
allows us to reinvest to create new categories.
Okay. What's like the gross margin? Like
This would be about 70% gross margin.
amazing, phenomenal. Okay.
That's the gross
So
margin before the CAC,
mm,
right? So the
right.
material.
Okay. 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 Got it. Understood. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about the expansions now. When did you start expanding? By which year?
For us, from 2004 to until 2013, the first 10 years of journey was just, single category of called blood banking.
Hmm. Hmm.
2014 to
By 2013, what was the revenue like?
roughly about 120 crores.
Okay.
And we, 2013 started with diagnostics, you know, uh, a test called newborn screening, which is actually a mandatory test in 70 plus countries globally. Every child at birth has this test done, sponsored by the government. In India, it's completely left to private pay. We even saw that large diagnostic players in the country did not have this test off or very limited coverage. For us,
What
this
is it
was,
screened for? This test?
this is so that, rare genetic disorders which have a preventive treatment option available.
Okay.
For example, uh, thyroid deficiency. The child gets these iodine supplements, within the first 14 days of birth, they could do very well, live a normal life. Should they miss that window of opportunity, then they may have even permanent mental retardation or death.
Okay.
The low cost, efficient treatment. It's just that you need to be diagnosed in time, which is why right on birth, within the first few days of birth, the blood is tested.
Hmm.
And given that we are uh, meeting parents, for just collecting the stem cells at birth, this was an associated opportunity, another preventive care, unlike a treatment related opportunity. Cord blood is also not for treating a child today, but hopefully something in the future as a preventive storage option. So this being an adjacent category, we stepped into it. Today, we are the largest provider of this test in the country.
Okay.
We expanded our offering, a couple of years later into doing pregnancy genetic testing. A lot of times they, during scans, there could be complications identified, and then you need to make a decision, continue with the pregnancy. Down syndrome being one of the most common conditions. One in, 1,000 pregnancies have an affected baby with Down syndrome. So we are the largest provider of those genetic tests, where we help make that decision. Today, we of course go beyond that Down syndrome. We go through many more conditions where we scan the whole genome, about 20,000 plus genes which are there, which relate to the body's function. We scan all of them and correlate them with about 4,000 plus genetic conditions which can be inherited from the parents to a baby. We screen through all of them to help make that decision. Similar thing is done also right at birth. The child being admitted to a NICU. Routine blood tests in the lab will not identify beyond a few, tens of conditions. But if you really need a conclusive diagnosis, that's where we provide you scan through the 4,000 plus conditions and help make that decision. And in a rapid fashion, because the child is in a crisis at that point.
Great. Great. During pregnancy, how does the genetic test happen? Like you would draw blood from the baby through the womb of the mother. Is that how it happens?
Multiple ways today, thankfully. One of the first measures is to take from the mother's peripheral blood itself, like a regular blood draw.
Okay.
Because what is identified now is that the baby's DNA also, gets passed on to the mother's blood also, a small fraction. So that then becomes very easy to identify that. But that's only capable today for a few limited conditions like Down syndrome. If it's Down syndrome negative, then people would go for an invasive test. That's when, under anesthesia, a procedure is done called amniocentesis, where the access of the child's blood directly is taken up.
And when is that test recommended? Sorry.
Usually that is done after the 13th week of pregnancy in the second trimester of pregnancy.
And is that recommended for all women, or if the first test has a certain outcome, then
first test is today, like in most countries today, the first line is available for across all age groups, without any risk background. For those at higher risk background, then only those, which is probably about a couple of percentage, would go for the invasive test.
And what determines that this is high risk? How do you calculate this?
So under the ultrasound scan, right, they would check if there are structural abnormalities, right? I mean, the bone, depending on the bone, baby's growth patterns, they would be finished.
Okay. Okay. So this is like the gynecologist would essentially determine whether this test has to be.
Gynecologists, and there are specialists in this space called fetal medicine
Okay.
who are focused on the baby's growth, rather than the pregnancy management.
Okay. So this business is not like directly selling to parent as much as selling to the gynecologist, right? Because they would determine and then probably also recommend from where they should get the test
Absolutely.
done.
So this requires, counseling by a doctor, first identification by a doctor and then counseling pre-test, post-test, because,
Mm.
the decisions is sometimes not easy, right? We may have to go for a medical termination of pregnancy. And that also has to be decided as per country's regulation before 24th week of pregnancy.
Mm.
So there's a lot of emotional counseling also that goes in.
Mm.
A lot of parents also have miscarriages during pregnancy, previous babies being affected by a genetic disorder. So those also then get categorized as high risk.
Okay. So you said your revenue is about 800 crores currently. So how much of
Yeah.
that comes from this diagnostics business?
About 20% additional of our revenue again comes from the diagnostic.
Within that, how much is post-delivery and pre-delivery? Like you have a pre-delivery.
The genetic testing within that. It's almost a large part of it is pregnancy related. About 70% is pregnancy, and then newborn is about 30%.
Okay.
Newborn, and I say includes pediatric also. Because we, also monitor not just at birth, sometimes there are developmental delays that come in post birth, especially neurological development, autism and other conditions.
I'm assuming for this service, it would be a more like every city would have its own testing infrastructure as opposed to cord blood storage, where you have just Chennai and Gurgaon. Because for this, you wouldn't have the time to fly it out to some other city or something like that.
No, this again is done mostly, even at LifeCell, which is the largest. It's only about 2 cities that we operate this testing. There is no need for um, while you would want a decision as quick as possible, like think about in pregnancy, you're still on between the 13th week, 24th week, you still have enough window of opportunity. And then we turn around the results today in less than 3 days.
Okay.
So it's not in crisis, but for a newborn, yes, we turn around the results within 48 hours. Yeah.
Okay. And it makes sense to centralize because I'm assuming the equipment would be
Absolutely.
much
Because these are
costlier.
very specialized, costly equipments, which is why centralization is the most effective.
Okay. Understood. Okay. So that was the diagnostics business. What are the other lines of business? So we've covered about 40% of your revenue so far, 20 from stem cell.
Today, half of the revenue for us, comes from our biologics vertical, which is where we convert donated human tissues into medical devices. For example, we take the placenta, which is again discarded after birth, which is the placenta's skin layer that separates the mother and the baby, and it's an envelope around the baby. And that is converted into a bandage where, we remove the blood, from the tissue, we remove the contamination, convert into a dry product, which can be stored at room temperature. And because it's a tissue which is devoid of cells, there is no matching required between a donor and a patient. And during the baby's development, there is a huge amount of growth factors that are produced to support the development of the baby. And large number of them are also getting trapped in this tissue. So this is a rich tissue that aids in wound closure. So patients who otherwise don't heal on their own, because of age or medical conditions like diabetes, vascular conditions because of smoking, a wound which should normally close in a week or less, could go without closure for beyond 3 or 4 weeks. So it's a chronic wound. the body is not able to close it on its own, and which is why we come in as a medical product, which is an advanced wound healing product, which helps the wound closure. Completely natural product. You don't it requires artificial skin substitutes. The body's own
Okay.
natural healing capability is harnessed. We're the only tissue bank outside the US to have the American Association of Tissue Bank accreditation, which allows
Okay.
us to export our tissues for global utilization.
Okay. What kind of wound are we talking about here? Like a surgery, if you have a surgery and they cut you open.
So
Uh,
there could be multiple wounds. I mean, one is a surgical wound itself, as you mentioned. A common orthopedic or a C-section during gynae, could be other surgical procedures. That is more where you don't have a chronic wound which has been there for a long time. It's more of an acute wound where
okay.
it, the body could heal on its own itself pretty quickly. There, the idea is to shorten that window and make it more, uh, less painful also.
Faster
So
recovery.
nice, get a faster recovery. Whereas, a large part is also used in chronic wounds, for diabetic foot ulcers. 1 in 10 diabetic patients will end up with a wound in a lower leg. And unfortunately, 25% of them end up in an amputation. So this comes, as a, you see, because of the wounds don't heal, then they get infected. And then the only way to manage that is through an amputation. So we help that wound closure through this product. It's
Okay.
called as a placental tissue,
Okay.
dehydrated tissue.
And is this like a refrigerated supply chain product, or is it like
So
sold off
that's
to
what it is.
shelves?
It's a room temperature storage product, 5-year expiry, no matching required between donor and patient. So just like any other pharmaceutical product stored on the shelf.
Wow, amazing. And how how do you sell it? Is it sold through pharmacies or is it sold directly to hospitals or like?
Right. It is, it's a prescribed product.
Hmm.
So it is made available in hospitals and pharmacies, both of them. Usually at podiatrists, who manage these lower leg wounds. Also, of course, today in surgical wounds also. The product is also something that can be used for, uh, for, acute wounds, which like cancer patients who go for radiotherapy, chemical burns also it is utilized. So there are
Okay.
many more applications. In fact, it is used across conditions. Largest ones, as I told you, are chronic.
Hmm. And is it like a DIY? You just
Not as
open
yet.
it
I mean, though it
like a
can be,
bandage.
it
Uh,
is actually quite straightforward to apply.
okay.
Uh, but usually, the application by itself is not the issue because it's a tissue that you directly apply on the wound. You require a few drops of saline and it sticks to the wound.
Okay.
But there is a procedure before that needs to be done. You need to clean the wound. That
Hmm.
needs to be done by a specialist.
Okay. Okay.
In some of the today's surgical procedures, you need to have, most of them are robotic laparoscopic procedures. Then
Hmm.
you need specialized devices to use them.
Okay. And what does this product cost?
This is about, depending on the size, between 1,000 rupees to 3,000 rupees per use.
Okay, which is very affordable for a product which helps you recover faster. Why wouldn't
Absolutely.
you want to?
I mean, think about it, the quality and quantity of life, right? Those with
Yes.
diabetic patients, I mean,
Mm.
all the associated trauma that they have to go to, including an amputation, loss of mobility.
Mm.
And, unfortunately, those after an amputation, they have a very low life expectancy. So
Mm.
there's huge
Mm.
impact from that perspective.
Mm. Is this a demand, like is the focus for this product about building demand or building supply? For you as the person running the business, what are you more focused on? You want to
Thankfully, at this stage, where we are today, supply is not a constraint.
okay.
India is the world's largest birthing country today.
How do you do the supply? Just tell me the logistics of it.
So we partner with large birthing institutes, where at least ideally, few hundred plus deliveries happen on a regular basis. We get institutional approval to get the clearances to do a collection. We train the doctors, the nurses, and then we also, of course, have to talk to the parents, get a consent to donate, and also
You
take a
need
blood
to
draw.
talk to each parent, or like the hospital
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
it as a part of
The
the
individual
form?
parent has to be
Oh,
exposed.
okay.
Uh, yeah, it is they right, like any
Mm.
organ and blood donation.
Mm.
Um, the consent is taken, blood draw is taken, and usually one placenta can yield about 10 tissues, for a treatment.
Yep.
It helps multiple patients.
Okay. And this is again flown to a central processing unit.
Correct. So for us, all of this comes to our lab in Chennai.
Mm.
And from there, we get globally distributed.
Okay. Okay. How like why is it? Why doesn't it need cold storage? How does that happen? Like, what is the
Because,
process that happens on it in Chennai?
so first is the cleansing, where you remove the blood, you add antibiotic to decontaminate it. You then dehydrate it, so that all the cells, viable cells are removed, and it becomes a flat product. And then once you get to that, you cut it into the different sizes and shapes, and then you package it, goes for sterilization, terminal sterilization. Uh, and after that, it is relabeled, for the box for distribution.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. So you said supply is not a problem. You have supply in place, which again,
Right.
because of your presence in the whole birthing space, you have access to supply. The same
Correct.
employees who are selling stem cells could also be used to collect parental consent for this, I'm assuming. So, like,
The same
utilizing.
institution, though today, given our scale, we have independent teams who meet with the hospitals.
Yep.
Because the collection can be supported, but there is a whole consent institutional management team that is required.
Okay. Okay.
We leverage common logistics, including our diagnostics, our stem cell banking, and our biologics, all of it together.
Okay. Got it.
So that way, these are related fields, and then hopefully we'll soon launch products in the bone and skin space. So, again, all of these products are exclusively imported into the country for dental implants, bone fractures, people need a bone replacement. There are no, blood or, or tissue banks like the bone and skin, which provide those specialized products in the.
Very quickly, just to finish this placenta theme. So, in this, you're saying demand is what you're currently focused on, building demand.
We have to go to specialty by specialty and get them to use the product and see in their practice what is the actual benefit. So that's when they start converting. In the US, it is already an established industry for more than 15 years. In India, it's less than 5 years. Therefore, it is a market building phase. In the US, including the insurance that supports large part of it, there is already a large demand already created out there.
Okay. In India, insurance doesn't support it.
Not as yet. It is, mostly for outpatient care, right? If it's used along with the surgery, there it is covered for.
Okay.
Right? Also, it is going through the insurance reimbursement approval process and clinical trials to support.
Okay.
It's not a straight through approval in India. Whereas in US, it is established products, so therefore it has a straight.
What does that term mean? Straight through approval?
I mean, you don't need to do like in the US, if I launch a generic, I don't need to do another clinical,
Okay.
prove that it
Okay.
works.
Okay. Understood. The category by itself is approved.
Correct. That's correct.
Got it. Okay. So, in India, how do products get approved for insurance? Like, each company does its own approval mechanism, or is there some central way in which?
See, India, usually products which are launched globally,
Mm.
India does require limited clinical trials. Even, a few weeks back, they have removed that barrier, saying that if it's a breakthrough product, then we would not need additional clinical trial. Here in India, they required us to go through a clinical trial. right? And especially this, there was no equivalent branded product being available in India. The companies which are in US, unfortunately, they don't distribute the product. So it was
Okay.
like an original drug, which is a longer approval cycle.
You have to go insurance company by insurance company, or is there like a central body which can approve this?
You need to go to the first few insurers, to
Okay.
get the claims processed. And then, once you have established that, then it gets implemented quickly
Will
across.
copy.
Yeah.
Okay, 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 okay. So you are the only company in India which is selling this
That is
placenta
correct.
skin
Yeah.
bandage. What is the product called?
The branded name online that you can search is Amco Plast.
Okay,
Am- Amnion chorion, which is the membranes in the placenta. So therefore, the Amco Plast is like a bandage.
okay, okay. And this is a market with zero competition. You have a
And
very
this time, I do expect, more people to, of course, build on this, given the large
okay,
opportunity in India.
okay, okay. The only people who can build on it.
LifeCell has been, player with many firsts. We
Hmm,
were the first to launch stem cell banking in the country, the first to bring in those advanced genomic testing in the country, first to bring
hmm,
placental tissue banking in the country, and there's still
hmm,
many more that will hopefully with bone and skin also be the first.
hmm.
We've been the first also, another venture that we do is our fertility tech, where we do use robotic devices to do the entire embryology lab processes. So company that's involved in advanced technologies, be it stem cells, be it genomics, be it medical devices, fertility, we've been leveraging the technologies to create, new spaces.
Okay. Okay. Uh, uh, let's talk about the fertility tech first, and then we'll come
Right.
to the bone skin in the end.
Right.
So this fertility tech, is this like a IVF clinic service that you're offering here, or is it a B2B service where you're doing things for IVF clinics?
It is a B2B service for IVF clinics. What we do
Mm.
is the embryology lab management. So that the gynecologist or the specialist, clinic fertility specialist can manage the patients, the clinical side of the work. The embryology lab part, that is completely outsourced to us. Where we bring in the embryologist, bring in the hardware, we bring in the software, we bring in the consumables. So they give us the gametes, which is the sperm and the eggs. We convert them into an embryo and then hand it over back for a transfer.
Can you talk to me through the entire process first and where in the process you fit in? Just paint a bigger picture for me first so I understand
So
where you
think of
fit.
a IVF cycle, where on the woman's side, they would give hormones, to trigger the release of the eggs. So
Okay.
after a couple of weeks, the uh, egg pickup is done under anesthesia in an IVF clinic. Once the eggs are harvested, parallelly, you also get the male to provide the sperm
Okay.
together. The embryologist, what they do is, under the microscope, they would ensure that the sperm, through either organically or if required, artificially inseminate the egg with the sperm. And they would monitor the growth of then the fertilized egg, over a 5-day period. It goes from a single cell to multiple to 16 cells, become a full embryo, which
Okay.
then is transferred back into the mother for a pregnancy.
Okay. How many eggs are fertilized for a couple?
Depends on every egg normally that you would get will be individually fertilized. Now, not every one that you fertilize will actually be converting into an embryo.
Right, right. Is it
So
like
normally
5:1
about
ratio?
3 to 5 embryos per cycle that you can harvest.
And 3 to 5 embryos come from how many eggs? Like how many eggs do
Uh,
you
would
inseminate?
be about 5 to 7 eggs that you would get.
Okay. 50%
in a-
success
in
ratio.
a-
Got it. Okay. And all three eggs are inserted into the woman's uterus at the same time, or is it like you try one and
Regulations are
try this?
now, restricting the number of transfers of eggs per cycle. Usually earlier you may have seen more of twin pregnancies with good result,
Yes, yes,
because
yes.
of that. Today, the global guidance is that better do single embryo transfers, so that you have a better term delivery, rather than a premature delivery, and therefore a better outcome from an overall perspective.
Okay. Understood. So an IVF service has a certain amount of patient facing activities, which include like prescribing the medicine, harvesting, inserting the embryo. And then it has some back end work, which is like actual fertilization to produce an embryo. So that back end can be outsourced to you. That is the
Correct.
service
And
that.
what we do is we use specialized technology. We use both robotics and AI to improve the outcomes. What is currently being done is completely a manual process, and embryologists, under a microscope, take to micropipettes and do the insemination. Whereas, what we do is now through a vision based, through a camera, you can see the entire field. And then you would use robotic arms to hold the egg in a gentle form, cut the tail of the sperm and do the insemination. Completely automated process.
Okay.
So helps reduce the manual errors, improves the repeatability, reduces the effort, improves the speed. And what we also do then is, on the growth phase, from a single cell to about a 16 cell blastocyte, we see the entire monitoring 5 days through a camera, which helps also then provide you data to do AI on top of predict, which would be a better quality embryo based on the growth pattern.
Okay.
So if you have multiple embryos, you have to prioritize which embryo to transfer. We help make those decisions. So the only India origin maker of these devices, and a lot of these are first to market.
So you made these devices in house, or you procured them?
This is, started the journey of two IISc scientists who created these devices, patented devices. And we have been fortunate to fund them right from the start. Today, having a significant majority stake.
Okay. Basically, you incubated a business to.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right. Amazing. And you are
today
basically
the
the first
vision is,
customer.
we're not just a customer. I mean, we've helped them scale, because we had the market reach. And this is how we've been able to help, once they were ready with the products, to quickly ramp that up. We getting into a phase, where the excitement is, you could also do this from a remote perspective. You don't need an embryologist right on site. You could do a remote IVF workflow. That would actually transform it, would scale the availability. Today, availability of embryologists is a significant limitation, that is holding back growth of the space.
Okay.
Skilled embryologists also is. So today, with lesser skill, with more remote, you could help significantly transform the space.
Okay. Essentially, to an IVF clinic, you could have two offerings. One is we will do it for you at our lab, where you transport the eggs.
No, we would still do it at the local lab. We won't transport it, but we could have a senior embryologist, not always necessarily on site, but always support them from remote place.
That's what I was coming to. So option one is we do it at our lab. Option two is we do it at your lab. And
no, we don't do it at our lab. We always do it at the customer.
We always do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that you don't freeze the gametes and then transfer them. You need to do it then.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Understood.
Just that the skilled embryologist part of it, we're making that more efficient and reducing the errors through automation.
Okay. And how many labs do you run today?
Today, about 40 IVF clinics in about 3 different states we're running. Hoping that we can scale this up across.
These are like standalone or like chains?
Most of them today are standalone individual clinics who don't get access to a full-time embryologist because of the lower. So that's the problem that we are solving. Large IVF chains can afford to have full-time senior embryologists. But with the tech options that are coming even today, they're all running this manually. Clearly, we believe the adoption of tech is something they will also clearly need to solve.
Right. What is this startup called, which you are incubating, which is building this?
It's called Spova, Sperm and Ovum. The Spova. A company based out of Bangalore.
Okay. Understood. Okay. Fascinating. And this again could be a global play, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of first to global market opportunity. The remote IVF is a first to global market.
Mm. Okay. Okay. And how much do you make from this fertility tech managing these 40
This
labs?
is something that has been like 4 5 years in the pre-launch phase. They've just gone live in about 6 months, in which they've signed about 40 clinics. We
Okay.
are in the build out phase in India and collecting data for global markets, to get the regulatory. Hope that in a
Mm.
couple of years we have the regulatory approvals for global markets.
Okay. This business is not within parent balance sheet, but this is in the Spova
That
balance sheet. Okay.
correct. That's
Okay. Okay.
of course, given the majority stake, it comes on a consolidated basis within the same.
Right. Okay. 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 Understood. And tell me about the bone and skin tissue. Like, just explain to me what that business is about.
So people with large burns, they would need a lot of skin replacement. You
Hmm.
can't just take it from one part of the body and put it out, just not available. Right? So therefore you need a donor skin. Again, that's a significant limitation in the country. We don't have that product available, especially, where you need of different forms and shapes. So we hope to solve that gap in the country. There is a need for bone allografts also, for dental implants, orthopedic implants, long bones, small allografts. So
What is an allograft?
allograft is, sorry, my bad, is a technical term, which is not from the same person. It is from a donated. Allogenic means it's taken from a different human.
Okay. Okay.
Graft is applied into the patient.
Ah, okay. Okay. Okay.
Autograft
And
is your own. Allogenic is allograft is from a donor.
okay. How do you harvest? Uh, like, what is your supply chain here? How do you harvest the skin and the bones?
Usually for bone, you could do from both living and from cadaveric donors. Largely it is cadaveric donors, but in living donors, it comes from hip replacement or knee replacement procedures where the bone is then usually discarded. Those becomes a source. Otherwise, in cadaveric, usually cadaveric is preferred because you get long bones from the thigh or the femur, so that you can make multiple product. From a hip or knee replacement, you get very small grafts.
Mhm. So it's not like a direct organ to organ transfer. It's not like if you have a hip bone, then it goes as a hip bone in another patient. So
Now, usually like the hip bones are used like for dental implants, for smaller
Mm,
procedures,
okay.
fitting in during ortho dental procedures.
So bones are typically used for dental procedures only. Other organs.
Smaller bone fragments, but
Okay.
otherwise the larger bones, cadaveric bones, are usually used for the orthopedic procedures.
Give me an example. Like,
Uh, like even the uh, uh, hip, or even a bone replacement, because of fracture or because of age, their own bone won't heal, right? And therefore you need a large bone replacement to have.
okay. So then the entire bone would
Correct.
be
Correct. But,
replaced.
two bone fragments also, in a knee replacements, you could have these bone fillings, to help support the bone growth or the
Oh,
bone voids.
okay.
If the whole bone is not damaged, a part of the bone, it will use them as bone filling.
So this donated bone has the ability to grow and automatically.
It becomes, it is already grown. It helps also further support the bone growth. So you need a scaffold on which more, cells can attach to and help, build on top of that. If you have a big bone loss, right, because of whatever, even cancer and other places, then your own bone doesn't provide that.
Mm. Okay. I'm wondering why we are not using artificial engineered substances for
Those
this.
are also being worked on, synthetic bone allografts, but again, they haven't yet reached the adoption as natural bone.
Mm.
And
What is the
because of
advantage of natural bone as opposed to synthetic?
the healing properties of it, right? I mean, it's the synthetics haven't yet come to the same level of performance. because the bone also has the bone supporting cells also, apart from just the scap, the bone structure itself, but also the cellular components also are available. Synthetics, you can't do the same replication today as yet of the natural form.
So,
And synthetics also, unfortunately, today are quite expensive, especially because of being imported.
okay. So natural bone probably is able to fuse into your body's own uh, bone system or
Provide the
because
right
of those.
signaling, provide the right support environment for better healing.
What
Like
is
the
the
growth
signaling?
factors, right, which are required for healing, those are available in the natural form.
Oh, okay. How do you provide the right signaling? What does that what signaling mean here? Like you
So
take some
silicon is,
medicines?
no, these called bone morphogenic proteins, the right proteins and growth factors, which tell the body what is required to be
Okay.
done.
Okay.
Right. So stem cells also are cells that will do the function, but you need a guide, on what is required to be produced. So should the cell become a lung cell, bone cell, liver cell, you need those growth factors and signaling molecules.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Fascinating. So much of
Like
this
you
sounds
have an
like
army, but you need the army to go and be directed appropriately, right? By a general.
right.
So they play the role of the general. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How are you solving for the supply here?
Again, supply is not the issue. I mean, there is the processing technology that is required. And therefore, LifeCell with its capabilities around cells and tissues doing advanced processing
Hmm.
and with some solution through licensing also, we'll help solve it.
Okay. Like how do you harvest from a cadaver? Like there is some consent needed. Like if somebody has
So,
said that I want to
there
donate
is
my
there
organ.
is there is a lot of you know uh, kidney and kidney transplants happening in the country, right?
Hmm.
From the same donor, one could actually also source the bone, but it's just not being picked up because there is no bone bank which has a requirement. So, because they don't have process, so there is enough bone. I don't think that's
Hmm.
the challenge. It's just that you need to talk to the same transplant coordinators where the kidney or the other transplants happening and source them from the same donor.
Okay. 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 Like if I have given some consent to allow my organs to be harvested, so then my
Correct.
bones can also be harvested.
That's correct. That's correct.
How does this organ harvesting consent work? Is there a centralized body for it,
So
or
there
you
are
go to your local hospital?
Yeah, so the national body is the NOTO, which is the National Organ and Tissue Transplantation Organization,
Okay.
governs the framework for such donations. And under cadaveric donation, of course, need the local consents also, given that there are long waiting lists, there's a little bit of involvement with local infrastructure. At each hospital, there is a transplant coordinator
Hmm.
who will talk to the families also and get the donation. In US, it is far more formalized. At the time of driving license application itself, they get you a consent whether you want to do a organ donation or not. It
Okay.
becomes, therefore, a huge number of organ donors available in those countries. In India, you have huge number of people, large number of birthing, large number of deaths also, but you don't have enough number of donors.
Mhm.
And given the huge constraints, around the consent, it is quite difficult still.
Okay. 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 I believe the US is the only country which also allows donors to be monetarily compensated. There is some sort of system like that there. Maybe it's for blood
I
donors or
It
something.
should be, yeah, maybe. I'm sorry, I'm not well
Okay.
informed of this. Yes.
Uh, okay. Okay. And, how big is this business? Organ. What do you call this? Like bone and skin transplant business, or what?
Yes, the human cell and tissue based products. That's what we call. I
Okay.
mean, you would simply call it as allografts. Allografts is simpler term.
Allografts. Okay. Hmm.
The allografts business now, is nearly about 400 crores for us. Half the revenue comes from the biologics, the allografts business.
Okay. Okay. And how
So
much
this
of
is sold as a
so
medical device. The after
allograft includes the placenta stage as
correct,
well.
that's right. It
Okay.
largely at the moment it's only placenta, bone and skin are your products
Verticals.
that we will soon introduce.
Okay. 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 Understood. So, it seems to me like uh, you are at a stage where there is going to be a pretty fast growth of your top line, right? Because there are so many of these large opportunities which you're entering into now, the fertility tech opportunity, the allograft opportunity. How do you see your top line growing over the next couple of years?
Thankfully, we have businesses at different stages of evolution. We have the legacy business of corporate banking, 20-year mature category for us, cash cow. Whereas we have diagnostic, which has been now for 10 years, still on a growth phase for us, still growing at 30% year on year for us. Given that we only have about 25 labs, and the largest network diagnostic chain in the country, we have about 300 plus labs. There is enough headroom to grow and scale even there. Bone and skin, the placenta business, we're already the largest and probably the only one in India, but our penetration in the US is still not even 10% of the market opportunity. So there is a lot more scaling yet to happen there. We also have businesses at just launch phase, which is the fertility tech, and another business which is also just launched is the skincare. We are the first skincare brand in the country to have a complete cell line. A range of products which are cellularly proven. We have stem cells, which are used for verifying the safety and the performance of the cosmetics. The animal testing for cosmetics is banned. Human testing directly is just not the right way of doing. You can't test 100 of different ingredients. You can't test 10 of different formulated cosmetics. But in the lab, you can create a replica of the human skin environment. So use the various layers of the skin. Use any claim like I make anti-aging, anti-hair fall, anti-dandruff, bone formation, skin formation, all of those are cellular assays that we have, through which, the only lab in the country to have that complete kit. So high performance skincare line that we've launched, exclusively at the moment focused on the pregnancies and newborns. It is under the brand name of Ayurveda.
Okay.
So yeah,
what are some of the products there, like moisturizers?
the products would be similar like most cosmetic lines. So pre-bath, it will be a massage oils. During bath, it will be body washes, shampoos. Post-bath, it will be a moisturizers, diaper rashes. We also have a range for mothers, pregnant mothers, which is stretch mark creams. We have during hormone, because during pregnancy you have dark spots, you have acne, so we have products for those. Post birth also we have nipple butter creams for the mothers. We have under eye serums because they sleep very little. So a range which is common, proven. You don't have to go through a lot of experimentation to get to the right answer. Definitely, you don't want to try things, right at pregnancy, right at baby. Right? So you need that confidence, and that's what we saw.
Okay. The hook doesn't sound powerful enough to me. The hook is that these are tested on in our labs on a skin environment, and therefore they are proven. But then, if a brand has been around, I mean, if your parents used it, then you kind of assume that yes, this is tested, right? Like say,
So
John product.
there is a study that we came across, by the Environmental Working Group (EWG), which tested these right up, using the cotton blood. And what they found was 200 plus toxins are there in that baby's newborn blood right on day zero. And this is probably what the mother is eating and what she's applying on the skin. So those are flowing into the baby's blood, which harm the baby's growth and development. And we are the country's first EWG certified pediatric brand in the country. Provide you that.
What is EWG certified?
EWG, which is the Environmental Working Group. We don't have any of the 5,000 plus toxins which they found, to be harmful to the baby's growth and development. So completely natural origin products, 98% plus, the products are certified to be of natural origin and to be free of those chemicals and also to be proven for performance. So think about all the large brands in the country, right, which are there. Most of them have a lot of non-natural ingredients. A lot of them, the so-called natural ingredient providers, don't have the capability to prove that it's going to be safe and efficacious. None of them have gone through this. A lot of them will still not meet EWG certification. Less than 1% of the brands, cosmetic brands globally, meet the EWG criteria.
Okay. So, is this a product for the like the top 1% in terms of pricing, or
It
is it?
is,
Is it?
it is a premium skincare line. So, given all the effort that has gone to build this out, and with adoption, we come up with options that will help increase the scale of this.
What is the ballpark pricing like for a few of the products?
So this would be, similar in pricing to some of the premium brands like Sebamed or Cetaphil
Okay.
in the country.
Okay.
So maybe like a 2x, 3x of where the Mama pricing would be, or Johnson Johnson or one of those brands, Himalaya.
Okay. Why did you choose to get into this business? Because it's very different from the other things which you have done so far, which somewhere have a B2B component. Like even the stem cell banking business, I would say, is B2B2C. You go through colleges, birthing center to eventually reach the parents. So somewhere there is like a B2B element in everything you've done so far. This seems to be like a pure B2C or a D2C business. So why did you want to get into this? What was the?
So for many, many reasons, right? I mean, first we have a direct reach, to parents, newborn, right at pregnancy and right after birth, from the various services. We already reached the gynecologist, we reach parents, so there is a natural reach.
Okay.
Second was, the cord blood itself that we preserve. When we came across a study that this is a problem that will affect the baby, clearly we had to do something with it. That's when we're looking at what is the best way to solve. And given that no other brand in the country is EWG certified, we not only committed ourselves to doing it, we went to another level of even proving, creating the cellular assays. We have experience with stem cells. L'Oreal had invented this capability in France, 10 years back, but nobody had brought this capability to India. Stem cells being expertise, where we have, we could quickly do that. Build the many foundational blocks, the cellular assays, the EWG certification, the reach, all of that came together to get into this area.
Do you see this scaling through the existing network, like educating colleges and having them recommend this to parents, or do you see going down, like say, like a more mass, like say a Mama Earth or whatever kind of a route where you do advertising and so on and so forth, and the celebrity
We will
ambassadors?
leverage all channels, including marketplaces, including to consumer through own websites, social media. We will go through the offline also, the hospital. I mean, all channels will be exploited. What we thankfully have is organic base already available, where we can quickly confirm the feasibility, viability of this, whether the consumers, are happy with the product feedback. Is their brand love? If that is established, scaling will be across all opportunities. It's a good product that should reach in the hands of everyone.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So coming back to my original question, what do you see your top line becoming as? 'Cause you have this skincare business also, which is going to kick in a couple of
Like
years.
so a lot of
In a couple of years,
businesses, yeah. So given that we have a lot of mix of new businesses, high growth potential, we believe that we will still grow at high double digits. We expect that we will at least 25% year on year.
Okay.
Hopefully in 3 years, we should double our top.
Okay. It will be like a 1,600 crore business in 3 years' time. Amazing.
That's yes.
So I want to understand, what does the CEO of a 1,000-ish crore business do? What do you do? What is your role in the company?
My role largely is more of innovation focused, on growth ventures, so identifying and incubating new opportunities. So I read a lot of scientific materials, attend a lot of conferences, go out in the field, and then also talk to a scientist, putting this together. Where we have a CEO who is actually managing the execution of the, already launched mature businesses. So I'm involved with all the growth businesses. So if it's a fertility tech, if it is a cosmetic tech, if it is a, other spaces, that's when I'm involved.
Okay.
And then if
So
it
you are
is
the
also large M&A, those are also things that I'm involved with, capital raising, strategic initiatives.
okay. You're the product and tech guy, basically.
That's good. Right.
So CEO you've hired is responsible for operational excellence and sales and
Correct.
revenue management and all of that.
Customer service, all of this.
Okay. How do you build a leadership team? Do you groom from inside? Do you hire from outside? What do you look for people when you're building your direct reportees?
Thankfully, at LifeCell, we've had most of our senior leadership grow from within.
Okay.
Most of them at least spent 5+ years, quite a number of them 10+ years with the company. And there is a lot of innovation that's happening in the company. So clearly, you need somebody who's agile, can adapt. So that's one of the key capability. It's not necessarily you need to be a domain expert. You need to be able to move across, and that's a key capability that.
So you would actively be moving your middle managers across multiple
Oh
business
yeah,
lines,
correct. I mean,
functions.
they're company managers who have grown from startup. I mean, from entry level to actually leading the head of the division also,
Mhm.
and now also going international. So there's
Okay.
been a lot of growth opportunity from within itself. The company. Thankfully, we've not been a single category, single country company.
Mm. What is your management style? Typically, every leader of a company has a unique of managing people to ensure outcomes are being met. What is like your management philosophies, mantras that you follow?
Because I'm mostly involved with the innovation side of, there's a lot of micromanagement, if you would call it, because I directly also, it is because it's like launching a new baby, right? You don't want to go anything to go wrong there. So you're trying to get to every level details where possible. You let it go, right? You
Mm.
don't want to be failing at delivery. So a lot of collaboration needs to happen with various streams of work.
Mm.
So, that's where my energy is also, high, because it excites me about going through the whole process. And every
Mm.
time we go through a launch,
Mm.
of course, had failures. We a few large successes. But there is at least about, at any point in time, about 4 or 5 different opportunities that we're incubating.
Okay. When do you decide that I can now step back from this?
Once, it reaches, first launch phase, and then in the post launch phase has a life, the process and systems are maturing, so usually a couple of years post launch is when I, step out, and thankfully there are other new opportunities that keep me more engaged.
Mm. Right. Okay. You said you had a few failures. Could you share some of those failures and what you learned from the failures?
Sure. I mean, some of the more recent opportunities, that we had launched was, example, sperm bank, where you today to do a sperm collection, you have to go into an IV clinic within 30 minutes. It needs to be taken for preservation and testing. The person in the country to provide a kit can be shipped to a home. Convenience and comfort of one's home, one can do a collection. It gets shipped back to us. We created a unique container. About 48 hours, the sperm can remain viable before it comes back to us. And then we can even freeze the sperm for future use. I mean, those who are not planning a pregnancy now, but subsequently, but they're single or they've not found the right partner, we can solve for them.
Mm.
Unfortunately, India wasn't yet ready for that. Right? So you could be technologically ready. If the market is not ready, there's no fitment out there.
Mm. Mm.
So a lot of these, that's the problem with innovation, right? Sometimes
Mm.
the head of the curve. Yeah.
Mm. So, do you operate a sperm bank now?
We still operate a sperm like that, right?
Okay.
But it's nowhere close to the threshold of expectation that we would have had
Mm.
seen in the other countries like locally.
Mm. Right. Okay. What were some of the inorganic ways that you grew by acquisitions? How did you
Both
decide?
acquisitions and investments. Utility tech
Mm.
was an investment, right from
Right.
startup we grew this into.
Mm.
Acquisitions is more on the diagnostic side. We have an ambition of being the top diagnostic players in the country.
Mm.
So building out 250 labs is going to be far more, time consuming, and starting from scratch is, trying to go, with some of the leading labs in the country and partner with them so that we can come under the common brand, common systems. So acquisitions is that we're rapidly scaling, and that's one of the reasons that we took in capital to this.
And by diagnostics, you're focused only on the pregnancy
Now we
child and
would
other.
be, having the full menu like a leading pathology player in the country, 5,000 plus tests, including oncology, transplant, basic health checkups, wellness,
Mm.
all of it together. I mean, nothing shocking capability, just a number of limited labs with our, high-end capability, we provide a better offering, comprehensive. Like we today will be one of the leading providers on transplant testing and in oncology testing.
Mm.
Given
Okay.
that genomics is playing a role across, various categories of testing.
Mm. Help me understand the diagnostics market. Is it a very competitive market in India where everyone is fighting for demand, or is there enough demand if you build good quality supply?
The industry has seen a cycle of substantial investment, where large number of players came in, the last years.
Hmm.
Tried going direct to the consumer to build a brand, that necessarily is not translated to commercial success. Because the wellness side of it, consumer directly initiates a test, is less than about 10-15% of the overall market.
Okay.
What is still there is prescription testing where a doctor recommends you a test, for a condition that you're suffering for, could be an acute, could be a chronic condition. There, because you're going back to the doctor and because it's affecting you significantly now, you're not going anywhere else. You're going to a trusted lab that the doctor recommends. So therefore, it is a lot of reputation and trust oriented today. And therefore, just direct to consumer is not going to cut it. So you need capability of wide menu of tests. So therefore, we have to build the whole menu of tests. Thankfully, with LifeCell, with its positioning in specialized tests, like even the genetic testing during pregnancy, right after birth, and there is already trust being built. LifeCell has been a brand for 20 plus years, pan India presence. So we enjoy that confidence of doctors. And now it's a matter of leveraging that through faster reach. We didn't have those labs which, provide those quick turnaround tests, which you need in 5 hours, 6 hours. We only had centralized labs. Now we built a network of 25 labs and trying to scale out further.
Okay. And how much would you be investing in this business over the
Um,
next 2, 3 years?
I mean, we've already invested about 200 crores in the last 2 years. There is plan to deploy even more capital behind.
Mm. Okay. Okay. It seems to me like the doctor or the gynecologist is a key stakeholder in the success of the
Right.
business. How do you reduce churn in that relationship?
One of the ways is to not just be dependent on a single category. Given that we have now multiple categories around it, gynecologist could be now with the latest of doing cosmetics, to earlier starting with product banking, with diagnostic testing, with including collection of the placenta. So there are many points, right, which there is an interaction with. So therefore, the relationship is always very active.
Hmm.
So therefore, with that vibrancy, we hope, that there is better adoption. The recall is very high of lives compared to other plans that would similarly service the doctor, compared to even pharma, right, who may have multiple products for a doctor. I think with multiple segments, that makes a much more impact, mind share.
Okay. But wouldn't a competitor be able to buy away a doctor? And I know this happens in the
That's what
industry
I'm
where,
saying. I mean, it is. I mean, pharma companies also have a significant, engagement, mind share of the doctors. But again, just I'm saying it's one category. It could only be pharma.
Hmm.
Then you need to grow across multiple categories to have a better reach. Just like in consumer cosmetic segment, for example, if a parent is only using it for a child, there could be one level of adoption. The mother is also using it for herself. It could be even more stickiness.
Hmm.
Given it's a recurring revenue model, stickiness is important. Multiple segments helps you give you that stickiness. I mean,
Okay.
apart from the commerce, right? I mean, commerce, yes, you're right. I mean, one could, as you say, technically have better commercial arrangement, but that's not the only reason.
Okay. Okay.
Trust, confidence, like we're the only lab in the country which has the, multiple levels of accreditation. Nobody else has, American Associate of Blood Bank, American Associate of Tissue Bank, College of American Pathologists, the new age test, so clearly, not everybody is able to match that accreditation and the menu perspective.
Okay. Do you have like a centralized team for managing these relationships? Like each gynecologist has like a dedicated relationship manager kind of an approach, or is it that each business goes and reaches out to the gynecologist on their own, or like how does
Right.
it work?
It is, in an area, we will have multiple relationship managers calling on the same gynecologist at this time. It's just that the skill sets, the knowledge required on all these segments for a single person to have is going to be very difficult. Right? A guy can be an expert in stem cell banking. Just diagnostic, you'll have, if you for a gynecologist, you'll have about 200 plus different tests. Then you have
Yeah.
placenta, then you have cosmetics. So one guy detailing a single person on all of these is going to be more difficult. But we do have at the senior level, above the relationship managers, we have local area heads who then have the, contacts, across streams with the same.
Okay. How much of your revenue would go to like a colleges? Like what? It both could be
We
direct and indirect combined. Like
Let me put it another way. How much of our business is maybe sourced through gynecologists, right? Maybe that way. I mean, could be, the uh, uh, either because the parents are paying for the cord blood banking, for example, the patients are paying for the products like the wound healing biologic product and all of that.
right,
And
right.
so what we have a commercial arrangement with doctors is only to do the collection of the cord blood or the placenta, where we pay them a collection fee. Right. So this
Okay.
is a
Got it.
institutional transparent collection fee, which even the parents are well aware of. Right? Because there is a medical procedure to be done right after birth, the doctors attending the mother and the child and having to do this. For the time and effort, there is a collection fee that is.
Right, right.
Beyond that, there is nothing else, which is we are, one of the most ethical providers in the space, right?
But how do you compete ethically? Everyone else
And
must
by
be
innovation, right? I mean, stem cell banking by making a product that's better offering than anybody else. And I mean, just if someone needs a matching cord blood, nobody else other than LifeCell will anyway come close. We are 10x bigger, than the nearest player. On a cosmetics, there is nobody who's like an innovative player like us, right? And we look at placenta, we're the only player out there. So the innovation part of it really is genomics. We are the provider with the largest menu of those tests. Innovation has helped us always stay ahead of the competition beyond just competition.
Right. Fascinating. Okay, amazing. Let me end with this. Any words of advice for young aspiring entrepreneurs?
It is, something that I've seen the benefit of innovation. While one could be a King Kong in one particular market, one should get beyond that comfort zone. And take that pain and the journey of going through a delivery of a new baby. Right? I would say it is painful, but it gives you substantial. Keep at it. It's tough, but it's fun.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Mike.
Thank you. Appreciate having you.